I applied for the scholarship from the Section 8 people, and I got it. And they gave me $5,000, something like that, a semester. And all of this stuff is happening in my life at one time. And when I
Okay.
moved her there, we were homeless. So right before I went to school, I married my wife and I left to go to school. When I married her,
Okay, stop.
we didn't have a place to live.
Stop. We need more details. Okay. So you come back from the military, right?
hmm
Then you get married before you started school, or you started school, then married your wife, and then
I
had to.
got married and then started school. So let's
You
say
got married.
I got married in, let's say it was October. I think I started school in that January.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what it
So you
was.
got married, and then you had to drive 1 hour. You left your wife, and then you lived on campus and had to
Yeah.
drive back and forth. Hey guys, welcome back to Journeys of Life podcast. Today I have Julian Jones with us. Hi Julian, thank you for accepting my invitation. How are you?
I'm doing good. I am outside of my comfort zone, but I'm ready.
You ready for this? You got to
I'm
tell us
ready.
a story, Julian. Okay, so we're just gonna start. Who is Julian Jones?
I am I'm a father, I'm a husband, I am a business owner,
Mhm.
and I believe in the impossible. It's just kind of the way I'm wired.
Believe in the impossible. Okay, so you're gonna have to give us more details.
Okay, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
What do you
Uh,
mean believe in the impossible? Were you always like that, or something
well,
happened?
I would say I was always like this, but there's a reason that I'm like this. Part of it, I believe, is innate to who I am. The other part has a lot to do with my mom. My
Okay.
mom, when I was young, she always told us that nothing is impossible. And and I'm also a believer. As a believer, she always said we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us.
Mm-hmm.
So very young, I was introduced to the possibilities of the impossible. And I genuinely took it to heart. I mean, if you can imagine a child's imagination, for to say to a child who can see anything in their head that nothing is impossible, that was just exactly what I needed. And it's kind of weird how like we become these people because that is that statement, nothing is impossible, probably is the crux of everything that I do and all that I have become. I genuinely I just I don't recall a time where I thought that there was something that I couldn't do. And it's
Wow.
not that my mom just was like hammered in our heads. It wasn't that. I actually grew up with my grandparents. So me and my brother moved with my grandparents at a very young age. I think it was about 5. Um, and so, from 0 to 5, I had that exposure, somewhat consistently, not really a lot, somewhat consistently, but it just captured me. To this day, I is one of the things that I'm vehement about teaching my children, which is like nothing is impossible. You genuinely can do anything. And I remember just different times in my life. One in particular, I don't think it was right before when I was coming out of the military. I was deciding what I wanted to do afterwards. One of those things was I was seriously considering, like, do I want to be president of the United States? And when I say seriously considering, I'm legitimately having a conversation with myself, like, okay,
Wow.
is this the approach? And there was nothing in my mind that was like, no, you can't do this. It was just, do I want to do it? And for me, most of my life boils down to, is this something I want to do or not want to do? Do I want to be an astrophysicist? Not necessarily. Okay, so I won't do it. Can I do it? Absolutely. Am I great at math? No, not at all. Um, but in my mind, that doesn't matter. It's just
Mhm.
completely irrelevant. It's a moot point. And so my philosophy about life, everybody's not going to agree with this, but this is how I think. And
Wow.
please feel free to ask questions about it.
Yes, I have so many questions. Let's start with the president thing. This is before Obama, correct?
This is yes, yeah.
Wow. And
No, no,
you
no,
had,
no. This was after Obama. Yeah,
okay.
because Obama was '08, so this was after Obama.
Okay. So why don't you want to be president, Julian?
It's just not where I belong. You
Okay.
know, it's there are many fights that we can take on,
Uh-huh.
but you know, when I look at the landscape of like, okay, what challenge do I want to take on? That's just not one of
Mm, man, I love your mindset. And all of this started because somebody told you nothing is impossible when you were young. That's amazing.
them. Yeah, that's the only
I,
thing I
I
get
need
connected to. Yeah.
I need to tell my kids more of that. I do, but I think this I love seeing this like in a grown person. That it actually, that it actually stuck. This is amazing. Okay,
Yeah,
so you said from 1 to 5 you were with your mom.
yeah, with my parents.
Okay, and then you moved with your grandparents. Do you want to
Mhm.
share why you moved in with your grandparents?
Yeah, I'll touch on it. So, um, my mom had some things that she had to work out,
Uh-huh.
and my dad he's a worker, and to be honest, my dad is a provider, and
Mm-hmm.
that's who he is, and I am very much the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, my wife attributes I attribute to my wife my evolution to a degree, um, because she pulls on me to be more emotionally involved and available. And she causes me to see the world in a different way, to be honest, because she sees the world in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
The way I see the world is it is what it is and it ain't what it ain't. There's really not, this is the controversial part. I don't see gray. I see black and white. And I
There's
know
no
people
gray
say
area.
it's a lot of gray, and I'm just like, it's just not.
It's just
I
black and white.
it's just not. And so my wife, and that is it's hard to maintain. It's hard to be emotionally intelligent when you just see things that way. And so
Mm,
my wife she's just an amazing person. Um, she she's just wise and graceful.
I
Um,
love this.
and so yeah, so she just kind of helps me to connect with people. And I'm not a socially awkward person outwardly. Like I'm not just like socially awkward.
Yeah.
But sometimes it is difficult, especially as adults, to connect. But
Mm-hmm.
just watching her and listening to her and kind of and taking heed to her, the relationship I have with my mom today is 100% better because of my wife. And that's priceless to me because I love my mom. I love my parents. I love my father. I remember when I was in school, when I was in elementary school, I
Mm-hmm.
would not talk about my parents because I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want other people to feel bad, because I genuinely believe I had the best parents in the world, even though I was living with my grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
And me and my brother, I didn't want to be talking about my parents and the other kids feel bad because their parents were as great as mine. Um,
Was
and
that
so
actual fact, or was that just through your lens as a kid? Like, I have the best parents in the world.
I still believe it to this day. I have the best parents in the world.
I love this.
And honestly, my wife, she's such a good mom. I'm almost like, I don't know, she might be better than my mom. My wife as a
Okay,
mom,
wait. We have to talk about wifey here because I am loving this woman already. How long you been married?
I've been married for 12 years. We were
Uh-huh.
met in high school, so we
Uh-huh.
met in 2003.
Okay.
Um, we did not like each other, and so I was a horrible student. I'm talking about horrible.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were she's 2 years behind me, but we were in the same class together because she was 2 years ahead.
Ah,
Um,
okay.
and so I would be in class like trying to get answers from her for the test. And And back then, because I was a teenager, teenage boys they eat a lot, so I'm always like trying to get snacks and just like answers and snacks. That was it, answers and snacks.
Uh-huh.
So I wasn't the most attractive prospect in that regard, but one day we got invited to. We had a mutual friend who decided to hook us up to go to homecoming together.
Mhm.
And honestly, after that, the rest is history. We were young, foolish, silly, not knowing what we're doing, immature. But
Mhm.
over time, with the ups and downs, the ebbs and flows,
The
we,
growth.
we become closer. And to admit, I can be a hard man to deal with,
Yeah.
part because of the way that I see the world and the way that I see
Mhm.
life, which is very black and white. Um, that is trying to bring that into a person to a person who has a higher level of emotional intelligence, and
Mm.
not just that, just more emotional in general. Like my first encounter with emotion, I was sitting in a this was way back in the day. My I was talking to my pastor. I was grown, and he was, we was having a conversation, and he asked me how I felt, and I was like dumbfounded, like, what do you mean? He pulled out a chart. This is back before smartphones. He printed a chart of emojis, and he said, point to the one that expresses how you feel. And I remember like, oh wow, that's a lot of feelings. Like there are a lot of things that you can feel. We talk about anger, sadness, discouragement, frustration. None of these things I could resonate with, um, because I just wasn't in tune with feelings. I never had to. Like I grew up in a neighborhood. It was all guys, all guys. I'm talking about. It's like 15 of us. It's one female. She stays in the house, obviously, because it's 15 guys. But I just never had to navigate a world where emotion was necessary to that degree. My wife is almost the exact opposite, where emotion plays such a big role in her life that
Mhm.
when we got together, it was like, one, I don't know what you're talking about. Two, what's the problem? Three, just fix the problem.
You couldn't
Problem
see
solution.
any problem
Say it
at
again.
all. I said you couldn't see any problem.
I
The
didn't
thing
understand what
you
when it
did.
comes to the emotional stuff. Like I don't understand like what's wrong. Um, I'm sad. You're sad. Why? You say why you're sad. Okay, great. Problem, solution. I'm sad
Oh,
because.
Julian, stop.
Okay, now let's present the solution. But life is not always that simple. And
No.
so, again, my wife really, she kind of revealed that to me, that life is just not that simple sometimes, especially from an emotional perspective. And that's where I was just not, I just didn't understand emotions. I never had to interact with them to a degree where I needed to label them.
This is so fascinating to me. It's because I get it. Like growing up in a culture where males don't show emotion,
Mm,
I kind of get where you're coming from.
mm,
Sheesh, it's like you couldn't even know that, okay, this person, how? Like, explain to me, how did that come? Did none of you guys ever feel sad or angry or happy, like to the point where it's like we're crying? Like my son cries, and I'm like, it's okay, feel your
yeah.
emotions. Why?
I honestly, I was a hard kid. Um, and I was just born that way. Just to be frank, I was just I'm that way today. But
Okay.
I've always been I've and I also go against the grain, and I do it intentionally. I'm
Mm,
not that person. I'm not a bandwagon kind of person. I actually like
mm,
to go on the path least traveled.
mm-hmm.
Um, I don't want to be a part of what everybody else is doing. It actually turns me away. And so as growing up just amongst boys, yeah, you might feel sad, but you don't necessarily know how to label it. Like I feel
Mm,
something,
Mhm.
But what is this feeling? Like, am I sad? Am I what? And then you don't think about it that much. You feel sad, you felt it. And then you on to the next thing. Like,
Mhm.
it's just not a conversation. It's not like, hey man, what's going on?
Mhm.
Nobody's saying that. As
Mm.
young men, 10, 18 to 18, nobody's saying, hey man, you all right? I didn't
Wow.
get I didn't get none of that. Like,
Really?
oh yeah, no, nobody's patting you on your back and asking you how you feel and like what's going on. And I was a horrible student. My senior year of high school, I think I missed 46 days. Um,
Why?
I mean, again, in my mind, it's like people would call it skipping. I would say, no, I'm just not coming to school. Like, I don't know. Why would you call it skipping? I legitimately decided that I'm just not going today. Why? Because I don't want to. Um,
Okay, wait, stop. Where was your grandma or the adults in your life at this point?
so
That's not gonna work.
by the time I got to high school, we were living with my father again, back where all my friends were in the neighborhood.
Mhm.
And again, my father worked all the time. So
Okay.
me and my brother, we did what we wanted to do for the most part. And it wasn't a bad thing. And we weren't bad kids. Like me and my,
Yeah.
we didn't like just get into trouble. We weren't like bullies or we just weren't like into bad stuff, drugs. And we just weren't doing that. I think for us, it was more so just about having fun. Like we just wanted to have fun.
Mm.
And so we just had fun. And we had a bunch of friends to have fun with
Mhm.
and everybody was safe. Nobody was getting hurt. We did do some
Thank God
foolish
for
stuff.
that.
Right, absolutely. And we did do some foolish stuff that, we don't talk about, but
Thank God there was no internet. We all did,
oh
right?
my goodness. We got away. Like
We
we were the
didn't
last
have that.
generation that got away.
Yes, we didn't have the inter. Well, we did towards the end,
Yeah,
but
we had the internet, but not like
not
videos
like
and
today.
social media. No, not like that. So anyway, yeah, it just yeah, the way I
Wow,
grew up, it was different. Honestly, I know my childhood was different in the sense that
very.
me and my brother just didn't have a lot of rules or like we just didn't. I mean, and I live this way today, and it's one of the reasons why I am where I am. I like to do what I want to do. And it's very challenging for me when somebody pushes me in a place where I have to do something different. And so me going to school when I wanted to was simply because that's what I want to do. And that is also one reason why corporate America was so challenging for me because I don't understand
Mhm.
how one adult can say to another adult
Mm,
when you can go and eat food,
mm.
when you can take off and not take off. It literally does not make sense to me.
It
Be,
doesn't
and
leave.
and and that is because I just grew up doing what I want to do.
Okay, so how does that backfire? Like, did that ever backfire? Because I know
100%.
sometimes,
The
yeah.
the the way that it backfires is it creates arrogance and pride,
Mm-hmm.
and that will destroy you in every relationship that you have. And so
Mm,
essentially, what happened, I became very arrogant
mm-hmm.
and proud, and you can't survive that way.
No.
Part of the reason that I have the challenge today with even being on this podcast is because of what those things kind of build up in you,
Mm-hmm.
and excuse me, what they build up in you because they cause you to isolate to a degree. And I've had multiple occasions people tell me from different areas of my life, like Julian, you have to let people in.
You do.
Um, and that was a challenge for me because I've been so reserved my whole life, and I am genuinely a reserved person. I don't people being in my business and stuff that don't bother me. But I'm just not one to just go out there and just start talking and trying to lead or trailblaze this path through, I'm gonna do what I want to do in my own space. You do what you got to do, and as long as I'm all right, we all right. And so it created arrogance with which means that from the beginning, like from the beginning of my life, I was predestined for something
Mhm.
phenomenal, something great, something out of this world, unimaginable. And I would have conversations with myself. And this was before I found Christ. So but even before I found Christ, I would have conversations with myself, wondering why I felt like a superhero, for lack of a better word. Like, what is this about me that's just like
Mhm.
it is like I can't explain it. It can't be contained. It just feels like power. And
Mhm.
so not having an answer to that, along with the way that I live my life, I took on this arrogant, proud kind of demeanor. Not that I was mean toward people. I've always been a nice guy. I'm a
Mhm.
very likable person. I
Mhm.
understand that is one of my strengths. People like me and
Mhm.
they don't even know me.
Mhm.
Um, Now I know that's just a part of the gift that God gave me. But I was still arrogant. And the tell signs of an arrogant person is that they don't ask questions because they already have the answers. And so that's a problem because you assume you know what you're in or what you're getting into, and so you don't seek guidance in those places. And for me, I just want to do what I want to do. I just wasn't seeking guidance in those places because I was doing what I want to do. But I had this pull from God, and I didn't grow up in church.
Mhm.
And eventually, one day, it was 2007. My 2006, my best friend was graduating high school,
Mhm.
and he brought this guy with him named Joseph Hackett. And I saw him. I was like, "This is a different kind of guy because he's a black guy. He's light skinned. And he had like green eyes. And it was just like he's different." Um, a year later, I found out, he was a pastor. And because even then I was trying to do business,
Mhm.
I I asked him to do something for us for the business. And I'm a this and I and the my love language. This is a lot of information. So my
I
love
believe it.
language is what's it called? One is acts of kindness, um,
Acts of service.
acts of service.
Yeah.
So I'm a servant. I am a servant by heart.
Mhm.
I'm a servant person.
Mhm.
And so when somebody does something for me, my natural response is to do something for them.
Mhm.
And so when he did something for us, I was like, okay, well, let me find out what he needed and I do something for him. And he might have said something like, hey, yeah, come like help me at the church do something. So I was like, all right, cool, no big deal. So I go to the church and I help him do something. And because of the type of person I am not a quitter. It don't make sense to me. I don't do it. I know people struggle with stuff, and so I try not to be apathetic about it, and I really do share empathy with people. Me myself am not a quitter. I don't believe in it at all. I think if you said you're going to do something, you need to do it. And if you don't do it, you need to be 100% fully accountable to it. And if somebody call you out on it, you need to take that. um, Again, this black and white kind of view of life. So he asked me to do stuff. And the more and more I started to hang around him and do stuff at the church, the more that pride began to be challenged because he was calling me out on my mess.
Mhm.
And it was breaking me down. I mean, breaking me down.
Mm.
And because I'm
Wow.
not, because it's like your whole life you feel like you know what you're talking about, and then somebody be like, you don't know what you're talking about.
Mhm.
It's like, what you mean? Like, I do know what I'm talking about. And then you go to prove it and you fall. You go to
Mhm.
prove you know what you're talking about, and then you find
And
out
you
you don't know what
don't.
you're talking about. And you
Mhm.
do that for years. I did that for years, trying to be this person that I thought I was,
Mhm.
not knowing I really don't have it like that.
Mhm.
And eventually it just broke me down. But I can't leave because I'm not a quitter. I can't stop because I'm not a quitter. It's just not in me to run the other direction because things get hard.
Mhm.
And it's a part of it that just is like fuel. You know how like when the Incredible Hulk, the more offense he endures, the stronger he gets. And
Mm-hmm.
so for me, it's very much like that. The more offense is like, man, I gotta get in there. I gotta go hard. I gotta do this. I gotta do that. Like I want the smoke. Like give it to me. Um, I have to say, Fatu, I am so uncomfortable. I
You are doing such a great job.
am so uncomfortable. Oh my
Pretend we're not like even. It's just me and you. I know we talk for hours. We can have
no,
guys. Me and Julian will get on the phone, and next thing you know, we already on the phone for an hour and a half, and we have to.
I know.
You're
It's
doing
just
a great job.
I'm exposing myself.
That's
Um,
okay.
yeah, I
I
know.
think you need this.
And anyway, so yeah,
So you
and
were
I just
challenged.
couldn't quit.
You
I,
didn't.
I was challenged to see myself for who I really was, and that was a hard pill to swallow. To see me for who I was, to see the person I had become because of my
Mm,
lack of guidance, because of it's a saying from Dr. Cindy Trim said, could it be that things are the way they are because you are the way you are?
that's
And
so true.
and
I recently, just this whole week, I've been hearing you don't see the world as it is, you see it the way you are. And you
mm,
don't, when you read something, you watch something,
mhm,
you're not actually seeing it the actual as it is. You're seeing, you perceive your perception because you're perceiving whatever you're watching, listening to as you are. So
mhm,
basically, it takes on that meaning. That's
right.
that's a fact.
Yeah, through your experience, through your lens.
Hmm.
And I had to confront that.
Hmm.
And so when people ask me today, like, Julian, how did you become successful? And I simply say, because I was willing to sweep the floors. And I mean that very literally. I was willing to sweep the floors at the church, no matter how much capable I thought I was, no matter how highly I thought of myself.
Hmm.
I was willing to become a servant,
Hmm.
um, and live in that space and learn in that space. Like the Karate Kid, wax on, wax off. Like, well, what are you gonna get from sweeping the floors? What are you gonna get from washing a car?
Hmm.
You learn how to serve, and you learn what it means to be successful. You learn what it means to work for something, and you learn that you are not an island. No matter how successful you are, no matter how big and bad you think you are, it's the people around you that have helped shape you to become the person that you are. So today, I am an amazing person. I was amazing then, but it was one of those things where it's like you see somebody with so much potential. It's like, man, you got potential. Man, you got so much potential. Like, man, I wish they would just see his potential. Today, I see my potential.
Hmm.
And it just solidified this person that I've become.
Hmm.
I went to college.
Hmm.
After all this, I went to college. I made straight A's in college. Straight A's. I'm talking about never a A minus. I made A or A pluses in college. I
Okay,
maintained.
so stop. What was the switch? Was this before the military? Because you mentioned
This
going
is
to the military.
afterwards.
This is
So
after.
yeah. So the progression of things is I grow up, with this mentality.
Hmm.
I find Jesus,
Hmm.
and I find a person that can teach me the Word of God.
Hmm.
This I get broken down,
Hmm.
and because I'm just not getting it, it's not clicking. My pastor actually told me to go to the military. I did not want to do it. I did it
Hmm.
because it was the voice of God in my life says go to the military. And so I went to the military. And once I got there, I realized that everything that I was taught, I'm practicing. As in, you're in class, you're in class, you're in class, you're getting all this information, but you never put it to use. And
Hmm.
so it almost feels like, is it really working?
Hmm.
Because you're just in download mode, like you're just downloading information. When I get to the military, I actually have to put the information to use. and people are just so impressed by it. And it's weird to me because it's like, by this time, this is normal. This is how I operate. This is how I live my life. And
Mhm.
everybody's like, man, Julian this, Julian that. And, they giving me awards and doing all of this stuff. And
Mhm.
it's like, so this is what I've been working on the whole time. I just
Mhm.
had never practiced it. So I hadn't seen the growth that I'd actually experienced. And so once I left the military, um, I went to work for $7 an hour at Cinnabon in Asheville, North Carolina. And in there, I was like, what am I doing?
Mhm.
I gotta go back to school. Mind you, I graduated high school with a 1.5 GPA. So I was
1.5.
1.5.
How did they let you graduate at all?
I guess they just let me. It was just like, you just gonna give you a pass.
Wow.
I graduated 1.5 GPA. I was never a stellar student. Like
Mhm.
academia was never my thing. Honestly, school just didn't make sense to me. Nobody could ever make school make sense. It's like, why am I here? And
Mm.
people always say, so you can get a job. And I always would say, why would I want a job? Like
So you can live?
it just, and I think that's just the limited thinking
Yeah.
that academia had back then. Is like, no, like, why would I work at McDonald's when I can own McDonald's? Nobody told me this, Fatu. This is how I've always thought like this.
Wait. That was a bar. You have to repeat that. Why? Just repeat
I
that.
said,
I don't think people heard it.
why would I work at McDonald's when I can own McDonald's? And nobody taught me that. Far as I can remember, I have always been that way. Why would I work for something I could just own that thing?
So naturally, you an entrepreneur at heart. Mm,
100%.
born one. Yeah.
I
I
can't say
hear
I
it.
was born one. Something shaped me. Well, and it could have been I was born that way. I
Yeah.
just I've always just wanted to own and be an owner, and I never really understood like why would I want to get a job? Like that don't make sense to me. But
Mhm.
nobody ever said, hey Julian, what about entrepreneurship? Back then in '05, '04, we didn't talk about like I didn't know what entrepreneurship was till I was
Mhm,
almost 30 years old. It's
mhm.
like entrepreneurship, what is that? And honestly, I believe if somebody would have set me down back then and said, hey Julian, there's this thing called entrepreneurship, my eyes would have lit up and my whole world would have changed
Yeah.
because it's like that's what I was hungry for. Like that's what my
Mhm,
soul wanted.
mhm.
So I decided like, all right, I need to go back to school because right now I don't have anything worth following, is how I feel. And so I went to excuse me, Western Carolina University, and I was 24. I went
Mhm,
to Western Carolina University and I was locked in. I was focused. And I said, man, all I need to do is make D's, which makes sense because I made F's all my life. So I was like, I just need
mm,
to make some D's and I'll be good. Like if I could graduate, I'm good. And my pastor, he said, Julian, make a 3.5. I'm like, no, he said, make the dean's list. I was like, what is that? So I went to the College of Business office, and on the wall they got Dean's List. I was like, oh,
mhm.
okay, let me find out what that is. So it was like Dean's List is a 3.5 GPA. Like, what is a GPA? And so okay, all right. I gotta get 3.5. That means I gotta get some A's and some B's and some C's. I can do that. No big deal. Um, and then one day, this is my first semester. This was like 2 weeks into my first semester. I'm sitting in
Mhm,
the cafeteria and I'm eating by myself on the TV. They're talking about a football player,
mhm,
and he has a 3.9 GPA, and he plays football in college.
mhm.
And within myself, I said, surely, if he can play football and get a 3.9, I can play these books and get a 4.0.
Oh my God. Bar. So
And
I
so
love
from
that.
that moment forward, I said, all right, 4.0. That's it. That's all I'm getting. And my pastor, he never paid for college. And he was like, Julian, like that's your inheritance. You shouldn't have to pay for college. And I was like, but That's what I want right there. I don't want to pay for college, and I want a 4.0 GPA. My first semester, I got a 4.0. I only made A's. Mind you, I'm a horrible student. I'm not talking about like I learned a little bit. I didn't read my first book until I was 23 years old.
Wow.
And all my life I had done book reports. And so what I knew how to do was cut corners. That's what I lived my life doing. Just doing enough in school to get by. And I'm not saying like, hey, you are this savant and you just doing enough is everybody's best. No, 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 no. For me, I am not that guy. So my first semester I made a 4.0 and I figured out how to tell my story. And so I started writing it down and applying for scholarships. My second semester was fully paid for. My third semester, fully paid for. My
Wow.
fourth semester, fully paid for. Fifth, sixth semester, fully paid for. All because I figured out how to tell my story. And so I started writing my story down and telling my story. And they started sending me all over the country. I'm going over here, I'm going over there. I'm sitting down having breakfast with billionaires. True story. I'm having breakfast with billionaires. All the while, my car, I can't afford to put $125 tires on my car. I need 4 tires on my car. And I can't afford to put them on there. But they sending me all over the country. School paid for. I got the best meal plan. I'm in the best dorm. And I never made anything less than an A. And somebody would say, well, Julian, how you do that? And honestly, Fatu, I can't, I've gotten to the point in my life where I just refuse to compartmentalize. Either you get me or you don't. As in either you can receive me or you don't. And you have to receive all of me. And in school, the Bible says, the hand of the diligent shall bear rule. And I recited that scripture every single day. And I decided while I was in school, I had a picture of some kids on the wall in my dorm. I did not have a TV. I did not play no games. I had a picture of kids. I said, those kids right there, they need me. They need me to do this. They need me to be the best version of myself. Those kids need me. And so every day I look at those kids and every day I go over my scripture. And every day I take hours. I worked 3 jobs. I was in 12 organizations. I was
Wow.
a part of the college, the honors college board of I can't remember, board of directors or something like that. I was doing community service and I went home because I was married every weekend. Every Saturday and Sunday, I had to drive an hour away to go back home because I lived on campus an hour from my wife with a car that I couldn't afford to put tires on. The window didn't roll down. It didn't have AC, so I had to drive, and the heat, the fan didn't work, so I had to drive really fast so that the car wouldn't overheat. And this is my life. And I live in Section 8. And one day I go into the Section 8 office and I see I'm looking at the desk and there's a scholarship on the desk. And I was just like, I'll apply for it. I applied for the scholarship from the Section 8 people and I got it. And they gave me $5,000, something like that, a semester. And all of this stuff is happening in my life at one time. And my wife lives an hour away by herself. And then she got a roommate. So my wife lives with a roommate while I'm
Oh
at
my God.
school.
Was she in school too at this
No,
moment?
she was working.
She
She
was
was
working
working.
already.
Right. And when I
Okay.
moved her there, we were homeless. So right before I went to school, I married my wife and I left to go to school. When I married her,
Okay, stop.
we didn't have a place to live.
Stop. We need more details. Okay. So you come back from the military, right?
hmm
Then you get married before you started school, or you started school, then married your wife, and then
I
had the
got
baby.
married and then started school. So let's
You
say
got married.
I got married in, let's say it was October. I think I started school in the January.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what it
So you
was.
got married and then you had to drive 1 hour. You left your wife and then you lived on campus and had to
Yeah,
drive back and forth. And you guys were so broke you couldn't afford tires at that moment.
right. And we was living in subsidized housing. Um, and the reason we was doing it because we didn't have money to get a place. So when I married her, we moved into a hotel in Asheville. So we got married.
Holy moly.
I
Jesus.
didn't have a place for her to live.
Oh wow.
We moved into the hotel. Man, Fatu, like this thing's so real because I don't have the answers for this. Like this, you can't explain this stuff. I try to, you can't explain this stuff. How? You know how long the Section 8 list is? It's 8 years long. I got approved in 3 days. 3 days.
Okay,
We
why
moved.
do you think that is? You were like, this is not right. I cannot live in a hotel with my wife. Like,
Well, you mean why do I think that it only took 3 days?
yeah, why do you think that is? Because I know you said you were a provider too, so that must have been hard. Like, okay, I'm married and I can't provide for this woman right
Oh
now.
yeah, yeah, for sure. I had nothing to do with the expedited approval process. It
Hmm.
normally the waiting list for Section 8 is roughly 8 years long.
Wow.
The fact that I got approved in 3 days is a miracle. That is
Mm-hmm.
miraculous.
Mm-hmm.
I had nothing to do with that.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that it was just me being obedient to what God told me to do,
Yes.
and Him just paving the way and making sure I had what I needed. No, I couldn't have done that.
Mm-hmm.
And 3 days passed, and it was like, "Hey, yeah, Mr. Jones, you've been approved." It's like, uh, okay. So obviously we move in. We ain't got no money. We don't got no furniture. So ain't really nothing to move in. My mom gave us a bed. And so I got a bed for my mom, and that's all we had. I found a couch on Craigslist for $80. I bought the couch and put it in there, and it was a so we moved in, and then I left for school,
Wow.
and it was hard. If you can only imagine, my wife just now getting married to a man, and then he just leaves,
Wow.
right? And we can't ignore like I am a male on a campus that's probably what 60% women.
Hmm.
Like let's be very real about this. We just
This
got
is
married.
college. It's not just women, it's young women.
It's young women.
If you've been to school, you know. You
Exactly. And not only that, just to be transparent, like, hey, it's young women and I'm a little older, so I know how they mind work. And
know.
so I absolutely have an advantage over the women on this campus because
Mm-hmm.
I know what get them going. I know what don't get them
Mm-hmm.
going. You know what I'm saying? Like I just have that advantage.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to highlight that because I want people to see like how real this thing really is and how taxing this could have been on my wife. That's a toll for a female and her husband's just going away 5 days out of the week, sometimes for 2 weeks at a time because we got exams.
Mm-hmm.
And y'all just got married and you supposed to be living this married life with this American, you know
Newlywed, yeah.
what I'm saying? And it's just not like that. Now, I'm committed and I'm a loyal person.
Mm-hmm.
So I never gave my wife anything to be concerned about.
Mm-hmm.
I refuse to do that. And I am again, like I said, black and white. I'm the type of person that if I did something or I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna say it. Like we're not finna sweep nothing under the rug. We're not finna act like it didn't happen. No, it happened, and we gonna do about it. Nothing ever happened. Um, but again, so I went to school. Everything was paid for. I didn't have to pay for another semester. I
Mm-hmm.
graduated college with
Mm-hmm.
2 degrees, and I
Wow.
did it in 2.5 years.
Wow. That's crazy because you were taking what, 6 classes a semester then?
I was taking, yep, 6 classes a semester,
Six.
and I was traveling. I was
Yeah.
gone somewhere at least once a month.
Yeah.
And I was at home on the weekends.
Yeah.
And I was in
Being
12 different organizations, and I was doing community service, and I was at church every Sunday and every Tuesday.
okay, where did you find the time? Like damn. Wow, I am so impressed. Like, this is amazing. That's not easy to do.
It's
And
not.
you were working how many jobs? You forgot your jobs.
Three.
And you still had
And
time
I
for
was an
your.
RA. And I was an RA.
Oh my God. What is a RA for people who don't know?
Resident assistant. That is the person that you go to on your floor that solves all your problems.
All your problems.
Yeah,
So you took on more and more responsibility.
I
But
did.
did you think from the Julian that you were saying you were earlier, did the
Mhm.
military and your pastor had a lot to do with that?
Yes.
But did the military also help you like just become this discipline? Like I know you always had that drive. I can do everything. Nothing
Yeah.
is impossible. But because
Mhm.
that's a lot.
Yeah. I would say no, the military was just a proving ground for me. The military was just a place where, for the first time, God could show me all that He had taught me.
Mm,
I didn't really learn much from there. And that was the surprising part that that for me wasn't about learning. It was about
hmm
showing. It was about showing myself all that I had already learned.
hmm
And yeah, so that's kind of that's what that was for me.
You graduated with two. What were your majors? What did you what are
Um,
your degrees?
finance
Oh my God.
and business law, all the while studying for the LSAT at the same time, which is the test to go to law school.
Okay, so what happened after that? Because this is getting wild.
So after after college, I
hmm
graduated. We moved to Charlotte,
hmm
and we just got a 1 bedroom apartment, really nice one because my wife had been thugging it out for a few years. So I was like, well, let me get this nice apartment. And I remember going to the rental office and was like, Mimi, they said you gotta have such and such credit. I was
hmm
like, man, we ain't got it. I was like, well, I guess we just gonna have to let's just apply. We'll just see what happens. So this is how me and her,
Yes.
kind of talking to each other. It was like, let's just apply. And so you know how you already made your mind up before you get
hmm
the results, because it's like,
hmm
I already know I don't qualify.
hmm
And so we applied, and the lady came back. She was like, all right, yeah, you were qualified. You were approved. And both of us was like, what?
Wow.
And you know how you trying to hurry up and do something before they realize they got the wrong person. So we trying to hurry up and get the paperwork done because like, all right, Mimi, yeah, we gotta hurry up because they might I don't think they might not realize they didn't get the right people. So let's go ahead and finish filling it out. So we did everything on the spot that day. It was like, yeah, we'll get it done. She was like, all right, yeah, so we'll have your keys ready shortly. Just come back. We was like, oh man, all right, well, let's just come back and see, we get them keys. And so we came back and they gave us the keys. And I was just, wow, yet again.
Flabbergasted. Yes. Yes.
And I applied, and I am a very competitive person. It is a good thing and sometimes not so good thing.
hmm
So I heard about some guy who had made some money, like a
hmm
certain income after college. So I was like, oh yeah, that's my goal right there. I want that. So he came out of college making 60,000 a year. So I was like, okay, let's see what I can do.
hmm
Because him and I had the same class together. I applied for a job at Ally Bank,
hmm
and um, I didn't get the job. The guy said, Julian, you are the best interviewer I have ever had. I want to refer you internally to another job. He referred me to another job and I got it. A job that I didn't even apply for. I got the
hmm
job I did not apply for.
hmm
And they offered me $55,000 a year. And I was like, oh my goodness,
Wow.
this is amazing. This is more money than I ever
Wow.
seen.
Wow.
And so from there, I worked. Then I switched companies and I started. So I worked, and I was also doing some real estate before I got a job because
hmm
my pastor said, he said, Julian, leave here, Asheville, and get an 8-month lease. I was like, not a year. I mean, I was like, I could just stay and see. He was like, no, you need to go. And so I left, and me and my wife got an 8-month lease because we went from nothing to saying that we're gonna buy a house this year. We're gonna buy a house this year. And in 8 months, I bought a house. And that was just, you gotta realize we come from not being able to put tires on a car, sleeping in a hotel, being in Section 8, failing out of high school, thinking I'm gonna make D's in college, to 2.5, 3 years later, buying my first house. Like, that's not normal because nothing changed but my mindset. Nothing changed but I was the same person, the same mannerisms, the same outlook, the same drive, the same ambition, the same tenacity. My mindset changed though. And I was willing to listen and hear what wisdom was saying and own up to my successes and failures and believe in something that was greater and beyond me. And God just opened these doors for me. And so I leave that job, and for the first time in my life, I make six figures. And I'm like, man, this is so surreal for me because
Doing what? What were you doing with for the
banking.
six
So
figures?
I'm in the banking, and I was in the
Okay.
banking industry. So I was making six figures. And I say that because as a young man, like that's part of, as far as a job, that's what you aspire for, like six figures. Everybody
Yes.
talk about six figures. So
Yes. Yes.
I gotta get to six figures. And we in the South. We're not in California or up north. We in the South. Six figures means
It's
something.
a lot of money.
Right. So, it was like six figures. I hit six figures and I'm like, man, it's crazy. Them people offered me $100,000. I was like, I'll take it. Give it to
Yes.
me. Yeah, I'll take it. And again, like Fatu, I'm not a great employee. I'm a horrible employee. Horrible. Just like I
Most
was
entrepreneurs are.
just like I was a horrible student, I'm a horrible employee. Why? Because I don't understand. If I want to leave, I'm gonna leave, whether it's early or late. If I want to take off, I'm gonna take off. I don't care what them hours say. Julie, you ain't got no PTO left. PTO?
What is
I'm an
that?
adult. Like, what you mean? Like, I'm an adult. If anyway, so I feel so strongly about that. It just come out sometimes. And so I went from making six figures, and then I get laid off, which I knew was coming. I was
Because you were a horrible employee, or it was
well
just.
because I was never supposed to be in corporate in the first place. When I first
Mm,
got my job at Ally, these group of real estate investors decided to take me on as an apprentice, and I had a decision to make. Do I make $55,000 a year, or do I dive headfirst into becoming a real estate apprentice?
mhm,
And I decided to take the safer, stable route than the other route. I always knew that my time was coming in,
mm,
in corporate, in jobs. I knew my time was coming because I was never built for corporate. I was a fish out of water in a sense. Corporate I was never meant for it. It was never meant for me. It was never going to be what I needed it to be.
mhm,
Entrepreneurship was coming, and I knew that it was going to be a matter of either you're going to do this voluntarily or
mm,
it's going to happen involuntarily. And so when it comes, I'm already ready for it. My wife already know. I already talked to her about it. She's known this for years. My time is coming.
mhm,
And so my time came, and I decided to go head first into real estate and just focus on that, because I've done quite a few things. I've been in some form of business since I was a teenager.
mhm,
But I dove headfirst into real estate. And I will say, I did my first sub two refinance
mhm.
um, last month. I bought a house for $6,000. $6,000. I,
Where?
re- I in Virginia. I refinanced the house and I pulled out $80,000.
Wow.
Fatu. Yes, true
Okay.
story. True
That's a
story.
barber.
And so the progression of things is astonishing to me. And we covered kind of a lot of things, so this was very choppy. I do know how to tell my story very
No, it's actually pretty smooth. Keep going.
okay. And so we get to this point now where I am, for the first time in my life, I feel fulfillment in a way that I've never felt before. That's simply because I'm outside of of corporate, and I'm in the thing that I should have been doing from 8 years old, which is building, creating. I am an inventor. I am an innovator. I'm a businessman, and I am a leader of people. And I don't say that with any air of arrogance. It is hard work to lead people, and I would much rather not do it.
Mm,
Um, but what better person to lead than the one who doesn't actually want to lead because they understand the responsibility of it and
yes.
how important people are. But that's just who I am, and honestly, I've spent my life running away from leadership uh,
Why do you
because
think that is?
I don't like to be responsible for other people. It is one of the things that when kids were like, "Man, I can't wait till I get older," I was saying the exact opposite. For what? You got to pay bills. You got to feed other people.
Mm,
Man, I'll be a kid until like
wow.
I'm a kid saying this. I understand what comes with adulthood.
You
I can
do.
see it. I don't want that. I want to be a kid running these streets, having fun, doing what I want to do. Not that thing that y'all got going on over there. But I know a lot of that was attributed to the freedom that I had as a kid.
Yes.
Most people don't experience the freedom I had as a kid.
No,
I was just,
you don't.
I could do what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it, how I wanted to do it, with who I wanted to do it.
Hmm.
People that don't grow up that way.
No.
As a parent, my kids don't grow up that way.
Okay,
And
wait. Oh, so when did you have your first kid? Is it between the getting your own apartment or to the house, or when did you guys
no.
start
My
having
first
kids?
kid, no, we waited until my son was born in 2019.
Okay.
Yeah, so we were together for a while before we had kids. Historically, I didn't want children. Um,
Really? Why?
yeah, what I just said. I don't want to be
Want to be
responsible for
responsible for anybody?
nobody, not even a wife.
Oh
Um,
man,
and a
got
part of that.
blessed.
Say what?
Said you got blessed with all of that.
I did.
Yeah.
You're right. I did. God saw past my personal desires.
He gave you what you needed. You needed that.
Yeah, I actually really do agree with that.
Yeah.
I got what I needed.
You got what you needed.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so you never wanted to be responsible for anybody.
Hmm.
So how did that switch? Because
It hasn't. I don't want to be, but I have to be because the world needs what I have. Just like the world needs what you have and anybody else. I cannot starve the world of the blessing that God made me to be just because it make me uncomfortable, just because I don't want the responsibility of it. It's so be it. It is what it is, and we keep it moving. So
wow. Wow. Okay. So now what are you doing now? What is your business looks like?
my business is for the last few years, it has been real estate acquisitions. So
Okay.
buying properties, renting properties,
Hmm.
um, and some flipping properties.
Hmm.
I am transitioning into the world of artificial intelligence. It
Okay.
it is for me. This is something like to get into the AI space is something I need to do.
Okay.
Real estate is a vehicle, and it has afforded me many opportunities. AI is how I touch the world, and so as I work in real estate and as I build a self-managing company, I'm
Hmm.
also in a stage right now where I'm doing my best to incorporate AI in as many ways as I can
Hmm.
um, before I take my time to fully branch off and build an AI company.
I love this. From a kid who graduated with a 1.5 GPA.
1.5 GPA, living with his
So
grandparents.
now this.
Yes,
Wow.
yeah, and
Wow.
I'm so grateful. because it didn't have to be this way. I was
Mm-hmm.
I was a I was a I was a very hard kid, and I say that because I think that at a young age I had to make decisions about who I wanted to be as a person,
Mm-hmm.
very young age, and that's because I know that I'm capable of a lot. And I often ask this question to people because I think it's really interesting. Do you think that you've done as much good in the world as you would have done bad? And that question is very meaningful to me because for me, it could have gone the other way.
Yes.
As successful as I am in a positive way, I could have been just as successful in a negative way. And I could have been a terror, a menace to society.
Yes.
Um, and I know people aren't in my mind, so they don't know exactly what I'm thinking, but that's very real for me. That's,
Very
that's,
real.
that's very real. And I think it's probably real for a lot of us. Um, and it makes me grateful because I understand it could have gone way different. I have done some things that could have just ended it all. While I was in, I didn't. So there's a lot of like I was in a plane crash once. I have totaled quite a few cars, and
Wow.
I fell asleep driving, and
Mm-hmm.
I set myself on fire one time.
Whoa. Why? Out of experimenting
Just being a young kid having fun
with too much freedom
with a
and
whole
way,
bunch of
yeah,
freedom.
way too much. I
Yeah,
see what you mean. It could have went very, very bad. And I'm
yeah,
glad it didn't. I'm glad
yeah.
you found the Julian we know now.
I'm glad too for more than just myself. Yeah.
Wow, wow, wow. Okay. So if anybody wants to get in touch with you, Julian, where can they find you?
Um. So I suck at social media, to be frank, but they can look me up on Facebook. Um. Usually people find me with my email address, jjonesfc@yahoo.
Yeah,
That's the
I'll put
easiest
all
way.
that in the description box for
That's
anybody
the
who
easy way
wants to
to,
reach
to
out.
find me on Facebook. Instagram is thewealthyway.us.
Yeah.
Um, thewealthyway.us. Um, honestly, people can call me. It don't even bother me. Like you can call me if you go on Facebook. My phone number is in my profile. So
I
feel
think
free.
there's some young men out there listening
Yeah,
that have way too much freedom at this moment and are a little lost.
yeah, yeah,
I think they would be beneficial. I mean, they will benefit from your guidance, to be
yeah.
honest. Yeah.
Well, if I can help, y'all know where to find me. Just find me on Facebook. My phone number is in my profile.
Yeah. I'll
My
link
email,
it.
yeah, my email is what I just said.
Yeah.
Um, but thank you, Fatu. This has been way out of my comfort zone. I feel like I rambled more than I wanted to.
No, that's how you grow. And I'm like, wow, this is so good.
Yes, and the crazy thing is that's just the highlights. I ain't even give you like like we ain't even getting in the weeds on some of this stuff. That is,
We'll come back. We can do
yeah,
it live. Like I know that's gonna be weird, but we can go live on YouTube and just have
yeah.
people come and ask questions.
Yeah,
That'll be
that,
good.
that that would be fun. That would
That
be
would be
fun.
fun. Well, I
And
appreciate your time.
oh, absolutely. And
I
too,
love
and
it.
I this is such a shameless plug, but my wife is very interesting, and
She wants to come on.
she no, she absolutely doesn't, but she should, and I think she would.
Okay, wait, let me end it. Let me end this. Okay, yeah, yeah. Bring